I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we're very, very happy to welcome all of you here this morning as we talk about money. Money is an interesting conversation, and we all like money, and it also can be a necessary evil, I guess. But this is the Senate AdHoc Task Force on Forest Management, and you probably wonder what our deficit has to do with management, but it'll all tie in together as we move along, as you will see. And I'm very thankful for those who have agreed to serve on this committee. Senator Chuck Gray, Senator Karen Allen, Johnson.
It's okay. We're pretty close.
Adopted her already.
Sorry. Karen Johnson, Senator Karen Johnson. I've only known her for 40 years. And then Gerald Flake of the Navajo County Farm Bureau, and David Tenney, the Navajo County Supervisor. Two of our state senators happen to be at this time at the National Democrat Convention, so they are excused, who are Senator Arsberger and Senator Aguirre. I'd like to just tell you a few reasons about why we're having this discussion this morning. I'm going to tell you this little quote by John Adams. All the perplexities, confusion, and distress in America arise not from defects in the Constitution, but from ignorance of the human nature of coin, credit, and circulation. So I think that is a good quote to start off today. I've been very concerned about the deficit our state continues to have, and until we can really finally address it and find ways to handle it and get rid of it, then it's very hard for our state to move forward. It's hard for cities and towns and counties to move forward, for them to know how to plan and budget. And so it's very important, and we really, the last few years, have not addressed this problem properly. We continue to have it. And you might be interested to know that in the last 5 years, our state government has grown 32%. A lot of these things you'll see in the presentation that Mr. Martin will be giving. I was reading an article about the debt our country is in, and it seems like America is living and functioning on debt. Our country, as you know, is $8 trillion in debt, and yet China has $2 trillion in the bank. And James Quinn is the Senior Director of Strategic Planning at the University of Pennsylvania, and in his August 19, 2008 article, he talked about American debt. He said the household debt in 2007 is $13.8 trillion. $10.5 trillion is in mortgage debt. Credit card debt is $880 billion. Personal saving rate has historically been between 8% and 11% of our disposable income, and it is now in a negative rating. Lowest ratings of saving ratings in any developed country is in America. We no longer are saving. The Chinese are saving the money we've paid them for with flat TVs, and the Middle Eastern countries are saving their money that we paid them for oil. You need savings in order to increase investment, and the emerging markets are making the vast majority of the investments in the world. While we endlessly debate drilling and construction of nuclear plants, China has brought 4 oil refineries online in 2008 and plans to build 30 nuclear reactors in the next 12 years. The Asian century has begun. These things are very alarming to me, but I tell you what, I believe in the American spirit. I believe that Americans have the ingenuity, the smarts, and everything that we can pull out of this situation, that we can bring back another strong economy in the state of Arizona. And there's many reasons why we are experiencing this problem. But I want to bring up one example about how in our state budgets, I believe that we have to be responsible and not spend money before we have it. And that's been part of the problem of creating new programs. I'll give one example, was all-day kindergarten. It doesn't matter whether you're for it or you are against it. But from the things that I've read, it's going to take $450 million to bring this program about. That money was not there. We committed the legislature and the people of Arizona to have to come up with that money. My argument is we need to start planning so that we spend money we already have for the new programs, and that we're not spending way out ahead and committing the taxpayer ahead, and then we have this economic downturn, and now we're in this position. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether you want us to raise your taxes. or do you want us to figure out how to solve this problem without doing that? And that's one reason for this today. And I'm going to introduce our guest speaker. At first, does anybody on the panel have anything they'd like to say before I introduce our very esteemed guest speaker?
Well, I guess I might say something I'm usually not at a loss for words, and that is that it's always been beyond my understanding to figure out how we as a state legislature spend money we don't have. And that's what we've been doing. And we've been creating new programs when we don't have the money for them. And it's just been very, very difficult because we have a coalition in the legislature of mostly Democrats and some Republicans that continue to do this. And we have got this state into a very, very precarious position. And it's very concerning to me. We are in a real crisis. And I'm sure that Treasurer Martin will explain to you exactly what's happening here.
I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to come up here. I came up through Globe. I don't usually come that way. I just wanted to see the country. And had a beautiful drive and got introduced to a very nice DPS officer.
Who needs photo radar?
It was very nice. But the point that I wanted to make is that I think the budget that's coming up for the next budget in January that we'll be dealing with will be $2 billion short for the state. And I think it's important that as we come up to this next election, we have a primary election coming up and we have a general election coming up. It is very important that we, the people, elect those people who are going to recognize the difference between money in the bank and credit, and the difference between paying as you go with money you have and indebting our children and our grandchildren to those new programs that Sylvia spoke of. And so when you go to the polls, and I don't care whether it's dog catcher or school board or any of them, because this is a nationwide problem with the debt that the nation has and the debt that the state has. It kind of engenders a style of leadership that says, well, everyone else is doing it, so can we. And so when you talk about your school districts, and we've had several school districts go bankrupt. We've had one that was in receivership that went bankrupt again in receivership. And my point is that you got to make sure, we got to make sure that we elect leaders that, number one, have backbone, but understand the principles of the economy so that we can have a nation going forward. And as Sylvia said, we can't really go forward if we're bankrupt. And we saw years ago when Orange County almost went bankrupt in California. The point is that this is an ongoing thing. And so I just hope that you'll recognize who those people are that you can elect to all these positions, because it takes all of us together to solve this problem. It's not just one particular leader or elected official. It's all of us and as a people. Also, that person, whoever it is at whatever position, needs to take that soapbox and be able to say to the public as a leader, you know what, we need to get our own personal financial houses in order. And as each of us across the country balance our own checkbooks and recognize that we can't live in debt, then we will require our elected officials to do the same.
Thank you. Mr. Flake? Mr. Flake?
Since you've brought it up, I've got something that's bothering me, something terrible. We've had notice that we've got the state budget balanced, and some are raising their flag saying we did this. However, I got a notice the other day on our state land fees. Those fees and licenses and everything that it's not only the state land department, every agency and department of the state has increased their fees something terrible. Well, state land fees have gone up, some of them 4 and 5 times. That is an increase in taxes.
Yes.
And these are, some of it is going, I guess, into the general fund to help pay for some of this stuff that we didn't raise the taxes for. This has got to cease too.
Thank you, Mr. Flake. Mr. Tenney, Supervisor Tenney, would you like to make a comment before we introduce our speaker?
Yes, thank you.